Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now today I'm going to be continuing my 60th anniversary series of TV story rankings, with ranking of every 11th Doctor TV story from the 11th hour to Time of the Doctor. But wait a minute, I'm sure some of you are probably wondering, the 60th anniversary was like over a year ago now, so why am I still at it with these videos? Well, basically what happened was originally this was supposed to come out back in 2023, I believe about October or November time, I think it was. But then when I went to record the original version of this video, don't know, I think there were various technical issues that kept plaguing it when it came time to try and edit it all together. And I tried doing it multiple times, doing multiple takes and everything, but it just didn't want to work, basically. I don't know if maybe it was the software I was using at the time or something like that. So yeah, I eventually decided that I was just going to like leave it for a bit and then I'd potentially come back to it at some point in the like near future. Well, obviously it's been a bit kind of longer than I had anticipated, like the gap between this and the last TV story ranking video. So I do apologize for that. I did mean to cover this a lot sooner, but unfortunately just various issues have, well, I just completely forgot about it, to tell you the truth. So yeah, today we're finally going to be doing it. I thought it would be a good time to kind of pick this series back up and try and finish it all off, due to New Who's 20th anniversary being in a few weeks. So yeah, I'm going to probably do like a few of these, just counting down within the next few weeks, like, you know, just do a few of them, counting down to that big day, which is in a few weeks' time. So, here we go. Here's the 11th Doctor ranking. Now, it's been quite a while since I since the last time I rewatched all these episodes. I've been rewatching all the new series, obviously, for the 20th anniversary. I think I watched most of the 11th Doctor stuff in like November, December of like a few months ago. So yeah, my memory of all of these episodes is going to be a bit hazy, so I might say more stuff for some of them than I will do for others. So I do apologize if it seems like I'm kind of just putting some episodes in a certain place and then not properly explaining why they're in that position. But yeah, I would say that I should really have rewatched them all right before doing this, or at least have, you know, time this video a bit better, but I don't really want to be rewatching like 3 series worth of episodes like all over again, like right before I do a video, because I'd have to like watch them all within a ridiculous amount of time, like, I don't know, a few days or something, and that would just mess up my schedule with university and work and all that lot, and yeah, it's just not worth it. So yeah, so this is what we're going to do instead. We're just going to try and rank them as best I can. As I say, I'm sorry if some bits seem like I should really have explained more, but I'm just doing the best I can, basically. So obviously we're going to start off with the 11th Doctor's first series, Series 5. Right, so we're going to start off with 11th hour, which is just here. I'm going to put it in, let's say, great. Yeah, I used to really not like this. Well, yeah, I think I did used to have a bit of a thing against this episode. I think I did prefer... This was back during the days when, like, basically I used to really not like 11th Doctor that much. Well, not solely because of the fact that David Tennant, the 10th Doctor, used to be my favourite Doctor, but just, I don't know, I think it took me ages to click with the 11th Doctor and the Stephen Moffat era as a whole. Now I would actually, ironically enough, probably take the Moffat era over the first Russell T Davies era, but very narrowly. Whereas, yeah, that used to be the opposite. Like, well, it wasn't even the opposite. It was literally, I loved the first Russell T Davies era, and then absolutely was full of not vitriol, but just very kind of like quite negative about most aspects of the Moffat era. So yeah, the 11th Hour. I used to say, oh well, it's not as good as like the Christmas Invasion in terms of new series first episodes for New Doctor. I mean, I would still say that I think I do prefer the Christmas Invasion, but like my appreciation for 11th Hour has gone up like a lot in the past couple of years, and so yeah, the Christmas Invasion is above it, but only just kind of thing. Like it's very close between the two of them now. The 11th Doctor, the 11th Hour is literally just, it gets off Matt Smith's era to such a wonderful, great start, and yeah, I just think it's great. You know, it's a great way to introduce a new Doctor. There's lots of action, and you know, the Doctor is doing a lot of stuff in this episode, and kind of, yeah, just, I think, as opposed to the Christmas Invasion where the 10th Doctor is actually out of it for most of that episode, this really, the 11th Doctor just hits the ground running, like, right from his very first episode, and in some, like, as much as I say that I preferred Christmas Invasion, you know, if you would say to me, oh, I prefer the 11th Hour over the Christmas Invasion, I could kind of see why, especially if you said, oh, it was because, you know, the 10th Doctor is basically asleep for most of the Christmas Invasion, whereas the 11th Doctor is doing a lot of stuff, a lot of like running about and, you know, getting proper involved in the story right from the beginning. And yeah, I think that would be fair enough, really, if you prefer that type of thing. Yeah, I don't have loads else to say, just I think it's really great, really solid start to Smith's era, basically. Then we come on to The Beast Below. It's just down here. I'm going to put this in good. I don't think it's... Obviously, I have put it slightly below the 11th Hour, because I don't think quality-wise it's as good as that episode, but I think it's still a fairly solid one, to be honest. Like, I know Stephen Moffat has since, like, himself has since stated that he doesn't really like what he ended up doing with this episode. And I can kind of see why. But it's, I don't know, I quite like the whole kind of Starship UK setting. I feel like that's quite, it feels brilliantly like realised. Like on paper, maybe it wouldn't have been the best idea. Like it could have very easily like just been, I don't know, it just like a starship that is devoted to the entire UK. On paper, maybe it does sound a bit bonkers, but I think in the execution of it and in the realization of it all, and you know, just how, whilst we don't get to explore the whole kind of society of it, we do get to see little bits and pieces, and we get to find out about how it basically kind of, you know, runs thanks to the star whale, and it puts the Doctor in a sort of moral dilemma. Yeah, I think it's fine, you know. There are better like second stories for a new Doctor, certainly, but there's also a lot worse. So yeah, I think that's fine ultimately. Then we've got Victory of the Daleks, which I'm not too sure whether to put it in good or meh. I think I'm gonna. Well, no, I'll put it in good because, yeah, it's kind of a similar thing to The Beast Below. Really, it's kind of like I do like the aesthetic of it, and it's kind of it is that kind of like Britishness, kind of yeah, it's playing with that kind of Britishness and everything. Which I don't know. It is obviously without getting too political. It really does depend on like how you view being all patriotic and stuff about the UK and everything. Some people for it, some people are kind of really against it or in the middle or whatever. Um, yeah, I understand that some people maybe don't like the idea of Doctor being so pally with Winston Churchill because, again, I'm trying to like avoid getting too political here because it's not really what we're supposed to be discussing about in this kind of video. But yeah, I understand why some people don't like that very much and how it kind of Victory of the Daleks seems to just kind of like brush over the real history and not really kind of. It's like not the most historically accurate type of depiction of the London Blitz and the Second World War and Churchill and everything. But then again, it is a lot of fun, and I think that's all it's really trying to be. It's just trying to be a lot of fun, and yeah, I mean, I can't really blame it for that because I'm fine with that personally. I do honestly think that the Paradigm Daleks got way too much hate back in the day. I know they've kind of had a bit of a reappraisal since then, and I'm really glad to see that because, honestly, like, yeah, the colours they initially had were a bit too bright, a bit too much like Teletubbies or Power Rangers or whatever. Honestly, like, I think it would have been really good if if the show just stuck to them and just kind of given them darker colours, or at least darker shades of the same colour, like they kind of did later on in the Series 7. And I feel like it's such a waste that the Paradigm Daleks just... They had a lot of potential, but it just never fully materialised, I think. And I think that's a real shame because, yeah, they could have... Because we've had the Bronze Daleks now for nearly 20 years, and I just kind of think that they've just become a bit tired, a bit maybe slightly outdated, and I think it would have been good if they'd have just stuck to the Paradigm Daleks, at least for the majority of the Moffat era anyway, and then they could have introduced a new Dalek design to replace them in the Chibnall era or whatever. But sadly that didn't happen, which is a shame, but there we go. Then we come on to... Where is it? So we've got Time of Angels. I believe this is also including Flesh and Stone. So I'm going to put this in... I'm going to put this in great. I think this is, yeah, just great stuff, really. I don't really have loads to say, to be honest. Like, it's memorable, but it's not like there's nothing too much that is really standing out to me. Like, there's some Moffatisms in terms of like how I think it really annoyed some fans at the time when River Song basically implies that the sound of the TARDIS, it only makes that sound because the Doctor always leaves the handbrakes on or something like that. But that's clearly just a Moffatism-like bit of humour, which nowadays, I don't really mind. Back in the day, I probably would have got really, not really wound up about it, but been a bit annoyed by it anyway. But now I just think whatever, yeah, I think this is... I don't think it's as good as Blink in terms of a Weeping Angel story. Blink is certainly a lot better, but I don't necessarily think this is a bad sequel. Well, kind of like second outing for the Weeping Angels anyway. I don't think it's bad. It's just, yeah, maybe not quite on the same level, but still pretty good, I think. Then we come on to The Vampires of Venice, which I'm gonna put in um put it in meh. Like, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. It's kind of just, yeah, it's fine, but I honestly, there's just not much that is sticking out in my mind, like in my memory of like that many standout moments from it. But then there's nothing that I really hate about it either. It's just kind of like meh, just again one of those episodes you just stick on in the background whilst you get on with the washing up or whatever it is you're doing. Yeah, that kind of thing. And that's fine really. Sometimes that's absolutely fine to just have that type of episode. Then we come to Amy's Choice, which I'm gonna put in good. Um yeah, apologies if like I sometimes lean a bit too closely into the microphone. I have got it quite close to my mouth, but not too close. But yeah, I'm not too sure if this is loud enough for you all to hear. Well, I'll probably end up like enhancing it later in the edit anyway, but still. Anyway, so Amy's Choice, absolutely fine, pretty good. I really like the Dream Lords. I think Toby Jones, I think his name is. I think he does a great job in that role. I would have liked to have seen more of the Dream Lords, to be honest with you. Like, I think that could have been quite interesting. I think the Valiard probably does a better job in terms of exploring the Doctor's darker sides of his personality and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I do quite like the Dream Lord and would have liked to have seen more of him, and maybe, I don't know, he could have become the Valiard or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's still really good, solid episodes. And yeah, I'm really struggling to think of what else to say with it. What is next? Oh, it's the Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. So the Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, I'm going to put in meh, just because, I mean, the fact that I struggled to remember it then, I think that says it all. Like, it's fine, but it's nothing particularly, like, brilliant or memorable, anything like that. It is just, yeah, I just feel like they could have gone about reintroducing the Silurians and bringing them into new series. I feel like they could have done that a lot better, with a much more faithful design to the original Silurians. I'm not too sure what to make of, the design that they came up with for this. I feel like it leans a bit too much into the whole lizard aspects of the Silurians. I feel like it should maybe have veered a bit further away from that. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I think it's retreading a lot of grounds that better stories have already kind of covered. Like, especially with the whole humanity versus Silurians or Homo reptilia, that kind of stuff. Like, Doctor and the Silurians did that better. The Sea Devils did it better. The Sea Devils. Yeah, it's fine, but again, nothing too special. Then we come on to Vincent and the Doctor, which I'm going to put in GOAT. I really love this episode, always have done. And I think it's just brilliant. It's a brilliant little, nice, character-focused, I think, episode. Yes, it's a historical. Yes, it involves the Doctor meeting famous figure from history, in this case, Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, however you pronounce it. But I don't know, it's just, I think just what it has to say and the way it deals with Vincent's depression and mental health issues and everything, I think is quite beautiful. I think how it's done, really. I know some people might maybe take issue with it and think, well, maybe actually, it could have done this or that differently. That's fair enough, but for me, I think it's fine and really well done. Then we've come on to The Lodger, which I'm going to put in good. I don't mind it. I know it's kind of like it is written by a certain person, who has since gone on to be quite vocally transphobic, shall we say. Um, yeah, and it's kind of always difficult with that because it's there's that whole kind of moral argument as to whether we should then base the work of such individuals purely on who wrote that or who created it. Um, that's a tricky one. Again, I'm not trying to get too political here. That's not, this is the wrong type of video to be having those discussions. Personally, that's what I think. But um, I do try my best to try and separate it from him, and you know, um, I enjoy it. And also there's the whole James Corden thing. Has since come out as well. It's a bit tricky, but um, I do enjoy it. Um, I don't enjoy. This is going to be a bit of a spoiler for later on, but I don't enjoy Craig's second outing with the 11th Doctor as much. But I do like this one quite a lot because I think there's a nice, fairly kind of simple and fine enough kind of mushy love story going on. And I think that's fine. Um, yeah, it's just fine. But yeah, I'm really not trying to offend anyone by putting it that highly. It's just purely I enjoy the episode, but I try to separate it from its writer, basically. Then lastly, we come on to the Pandark opens and Big Bang. I put this in good actually as well because it's not my favourite new series finale of all time, but then I do quite like it. I enjoy it. It is, I think, where Moffat really starts to mess with the whole wibbly wobbly, timey wimey like stuff and everything, and yeah, it feels like Moffat's really getting into his elements now. I think with all that kind of stuff. But I don't think the way he does it in this two-parter is necessarily bad. But yeah, I know that some casual viewers at the time would have found it a bit confusing and would later find much of Moffat's era to be quite confusing because there would be a lot of like loops and paradoxes and stuff like that, which, might not, which obviously like us sci-fi nerds, like, are fine with. And some, quite a few of us might even like love that kind of stuff. But to the casual viewer, might not be that like good or enjoyable, and they might find it really confusing sometimes. But yeah, I think it's absolutely fine, and yeah, it finishes series 5 off on a pretty good high, I think. Really, I mean, um, I think it's clear that I really do love Series 5 like a lot. It's one of my favourite series of all the Revival and of all of Doctor Who, actually. And yeah, I think that's reflected in where I've kind of ranked all of its stories. But yeah, that's pretty much it, really, for Series 5. So we'll now come on to Series 6. Okay, we're now on to Series 6. I'm going to start off with Christmas Carol, which I believe was, it aired in 2010, but it was filmed as part of Series 6, I believe, so it makes sense to start Series 6 off with that. I'm going to put it in good again. It's fine, I quite like I like the fact that it kind of riffs on Christmas Carol, and I think it does it in quite a original and inventive way. And yeah, this special has grown on me quite a lot, I think, over the years. But yeah, it's not my favourite Christmas special, but it's not my least favorite either, basically. It's just fine, pretty much, and it's enjoyable and emotional and yeah, just nice, kind of just a good episode. Then we get on to there it is. The Impossible Planet slash Day of the Moon. I'm gonna put this in great. Yeah, like this one quite a bit. I think it's a great way to start off Series 6. And yeah, to get the whole kind of ball rolling with the whole Doctor dying arc and everything. And, what's going on with River Song and exploring like who she is and everything. Yeah, I think it's great. It's got, I like the fact that it ties so heavily into 1969 moon landings, and you see the Doctor meeting another historical figure, President Nixon, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's really enjoyable, like just really action packed and just great stuff. Then we come to Curse of the Black Spot. I'm going to put this in meh. I wouldn't say I hate it, but I don't really feel like it's as good as maybe it could have been. But then I don't know. It just feels. I don't know really. Like there's just not much coming to my mind really, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, it just seems largely fairly forgettable. There's really not that much now. Thinking about it actually stands out to me. So I think that says it all, really, in terms of my thoughts on that episode. It's not particularly memorable, and then it's not completely god-awful either. Yeah. Then we come on to The Doctor's Wife. Going to put this in GOAT. Again, it's another thing with trying to separate the work from its creator or its writer. Yep. If you've seen what's been going around lately in terms of the writer of this this episode, I don't want to say his name because obviously, like, I don't want to upset anyone or anything like that. But yeah, if you've seen the stuff going around, yeah, that's not great. But The Doctor's Wife as an episode, I think is really good, and I just find the way it explores the relationship between the Doctor and TARDIS, I think is just really beautiful, and just how the TARDIS is basically the Doctor's one and only, like, constant companion, basically. And they've got so much history together, and the fact that they finally get to sit down and properly talk with each other. I think that it's just a great idea for an episode, and I just really enjoy it so much. It's so powerful, it's so emotional, it's so beautiful. It's just lovely, sad, and yeah, just a really great episode. But yeah, I'm trying to separate it from its writer. Then we come on to Rebel Flesh, the Almost People. I'm going to put this in meh as well. Like, I think this is one, and this might be the case of A Curse of Black Spot as well, where quite a few fans don't really care much for those 3 episodes. I don't hate the Ganger kind of 2-parter, as it were, but I don't particularly love it either. I think it's got some good moments, and I think it's quite, the flesh itself can be quite scary, particularly with that. Can't for the life of me remember the character's name, but the woman that Rory spends a lot of time with, and how she kind of transforms and everything, and yeah, it's pretty like creepy. scary visual stuff. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, it just feels like it's kind of there just as a, like the whole two parts is kind of more there to just set up the whole idea of the flesh, and potentially I think to tease the audience as to like, oh well, hold on, could the Doctor that we saw get killed by River Song, well, or by the astronaut, I should say, because at this point we didn't know it was River Song. Um, could that have been a duplicate of the Doctor instead of being a real Doctor? I think that's kind of the main purpose, I think, of the two-parter. It's kind of just fulfilling a function which fits in with the rest of Series 6's, like, overall story arc. And that's probably the best way to describe it, is it's literally just there to serve the wider arc. And yeah, it's not really supposed to be taken as much else beyond that, I think. Then we come on to The Good Man Goes to War. I'm going to put this in... would I put it in great or would I put it in good? Yeah, no, I'll stick with great. Stick with great. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. I think I can't remember who. Well, no, I think it's River actually who says it. That, and this sums up the episode really well. It sees the Doctor rise like he never has done before, or whatever she says, and then how he ends up falling like so much further. It's brilliant. Kind of like, it feels like the stakes are on, and it feels like a sort of, I think it's basically there as a sort of mid-season finale, I think. A way to kind of tie up Series 6A. Remember when, series used to be split into two parts? And then to kind of leave the door open for Series 6B. I think it does a good job with that, even if it is kind of, again, like the Ganger two-part, it's kind of there's a function for the wider arc, the wider series. I feel like it's still like a great episode despite that. Like, yeah, it's there to fulfill function, but it's also just a really good episode. The stakes feel pretty high throughout it, and it's just some great performances from Matt Smith, from just all of the cast, just brilliant throughout it, especially as well Alex Kingston as River Song. And obviously this is when we found out who she was, and I think that moment in particular is just brilliantly done, brilliantly written by Moffat, brilliantly acted, just utterly brilliant stuff, basically. Then we come on to... where is it? Oh, Let's Kill Hitler. Oh, God. I'm going to put this in awful. What a letdown. I think safe to say. It's just... I don't know, it just feels like... It's not... I mean, I would say it's awful, but I wouldn't say I have a strongly negative opinion about it. I just really do think that, like, Moffat could have done better with it, and I think that the bar was set too high by the previous episode, Good Man Goes to War, and I just think that Let's Kill Hitler just does not live up to that in the slightest. But it's just pretty... I mean, it's a romp, and it doesn't necessarily try not to be. So I suppose, kudos to it for that. But yeah, let's just move on, shall we? Night Terrors, I'm gonna put in... I'm gonna put it in good, and I think, I know people don't really like this episode. I never really minded it. I quite like the peg dolls. I think the peg doll is probably the strongest aspect of it. Yeah, I don't know what to think about George. Kind of, I don't know. It's I don't know if his kind of story is done. His kind of character arc in this episode is done as well as it could have been. I don't really know what to think about, the ending of it either. But there is some really creepy, scary stuff going on with the peg dolls, and particularly that moment when Amy gets turned into one. I think that's really almost horrific, and just, yeah, because then you just feel like, oh my god, like, how the hell, is how the hell are the Doctor, Amy and Rory going to get out of this now that, Amy's been turned into a peg doll? Yeah, I think that's kind of it for that one. Then The Girl Who Waited, I'm going to put that in GOAT. Yeah, it's strange because, like, I think for a lot of the time that the Ponds were traveling with the 11th Doctor, it was often the case that Amy would kind of, like, unnecessarily pick on Rory, like, a lot and belittle him quite a bit and make fun of him and stuff like that. I mean, quite mean to him, I think, at times, but then you get to this episode and you actually find out just how much he means to her and how much she loves him and everything. And it's just really lovely, kind of beautiful kind of stuff, because then it makes you kind of see that whole aspect of their relationship together in a very different light. And yeah, it's just brilliant. I think this basically gives Karen Gillan a really good chance to shine as an actor or actress, and I think, yeah, just hats off to her, because she's just brilliant, especially as the older Amy, but even as, as the regular or younger Amy. Great performance from her, playing both of them, and that couldn't have been easy, trying to play two versions of the same character, basically. One that is just older and more kind of down in the dumps a bit, I think, and more just kind of like initially quite bitter, I think, towards the Doctor for leaving her behind, and yeah, just less kind of optimistic, I think. Yeah, it's just a great kind of, yeah, whilst Amy couldn't always be like the nicest to Rory and couldn't always be like, wasn't always the best, like, character overall, I think, in terms of writing. I think in this episode she definitely was, and yeah, I just love it for redeeming Amy as a character and redeeming her relationship with Rory and making me see it in a very different light, I think, basically. Then we get onto the God Complex, which I'm also going to put in GOAT, because, I mean, it's kind of similar reasons, basically. Basically, this and The Girl Who Waited are pretty solid, like, couple of episodes, actually. Like, I love the whole aspect of, this Minotaur going around in what appears to be, anyway, this, like, creepy old hotel from the 80s or whatever. And then actually it turns out it's not actually a real hotel. It's actually, like, I think it gets revealed at the end, it's a spaceship that he's been imprisoned in. And, and I like the little callback to the Naimon and the little connection there between them and the Minotaur in this episode. And I love the fact that, I love the moment where the 11th Doctor has to basically break Amy's faith and trust in him. And I think, I mean, I think the Curse of Fenric did it even better in terms of that moment when when the Doctor has to make a companion, like, really not like him, at least temporarily. But even so, even the fact that Fenric did it better, the God Complex still does it pretty well, I would say. And yeah, it's just really great stuff, and just love it. It's just, yeah, this and The Girl Who Waited easily, not just in my favourite 11th Doctor episodes ever, but my favourite, among my favourite Doctor Who episodes ever, I would say. I'd go that far. Um, yeah, just great emotional kind of storylines, basically. I think both of them are quite emotionally charged, emotionally packed, and yeah, all the better for it. Then we come on to closing time. Oh, yeah, that's that's a real dip in quality. That is, that's going in awful because yeah, oh God, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. This is just a mess, quite frankly. I think I'm going to quickly move on because I don't know what can I say about this. It's just, yeah, it's just a waste. I liked Craig. I just feel like closing time. I don't know what they were thinking. Quite honestly, like I wouldn't have. I don't necessarily mind the fact that like Craig came back. Like, I think that's fine, as an idea, but then, um, I don't know, it just doesn't work, like, as an episode, like, at all. It's not a good Cyberman episode. It's just they get defeated by love, which I don't know. I mean, sometimes I can be quite a soppy person, so sometimes, I can be kind of slightly forgiving of that kind of thing, but in this instance, it just doesn't work, quite frankly. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, the writer, again, of this episode is, yep, same writer as Lodger, and yeah, um, I think the only part of it that I do quite like like of their closing time is probably the Cybermats. The fact that they came back and the design they had and everything, I thought that was really good. It's like a really good kind of like modern twist on their original design. But beyond that, like, there's just not much worth saying, quite frankly. Just put it in the bin, basically. The Wedding of River Song, I'm gonna put it in meh. Um, I feel like, again, this is the problem with some finales. Sometimes the expectations are set so high that they can just never quite deliver it satisfactorily, and wrap everything up in a neat little bow and, tie up all loose ends and everything. Yeah, I mean, The Wedding of River Song, it tries, and I think that there are good ideas and there are good moments to it, and I love the fact that, all of time is happening at once. I wish we'd have seen more of that in the episode because I really would have loved to have seen more of it. I know we do kind of get like a few scenes of it, but I really would have loved to have seen more of that, and maybe just have that idea as its own episode because I don't know, it just feels like it gets lost in the whole kind of in the rest of the episode where it's trying to resolve the whole of Series 6 and um, the whole story arc that we've been along, that Series 6 has been telling with the Doctor seemingly getting killed by the astronaut and then finding out more about River. And yeah, it's just, it could have done a lot better, but then again, it could have also been a lot worse. And, there are worse series finales out there. Looking at you, Empire of Death, for example. But yeah, there are also a lot better ones, I think. And then I think we may as well include it for Series 6. Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. I'm going to put this in meh as well. Like, I don't hate it, but I just... Yeah, I would definitely take A Christmas Carol over this. Of the two like Smith Christmas specials that we've talked about so far. Yeah, I mean, it's just another Christmas special, which is not necessarily great, but you can stick on in the background and get on with something else and, occasionally look over at it and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, like the Christmas specials, they tend to go out on Christmas Day when everyone's like with family or with friends or whatever, and kind of just, they tend to be broadcast like right after everyone's had Christmas dinner or when they're just about to, like, just beforehand, like the episode goes out just beforehand. Um, yeah, I feel like the Christmas specials work in that they are good stuff to get like a decent amount of ratings and to be kind of like um stuff to look at occasionally whilst you're preparing your Christmas dinner and everything. But yeah, only a few of them are really kind of great, solid episodes. Like, I think the vast majority of them are pretty meh or middling, and The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe is no exception to that. That is, yeah, classic example of that. And yeah, there's some moments I like in it, but yeah, there's just better Christmas specials out there. There's better episodes out there. There's better stuff out there, but there's also worse stuff out there. So, I suppose I can't really complain too much. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for Series 6. Alright, so now on to Series 7. I'm going to start off with Asylum of the Daleks. I'm going to put this in meh. I just kind of feel like, because I remember actually quite well the whole kind of like excitement there. Well, I mean, certainly I felt at the time anyway, of getting to see like every single Dalek design ever in one episode. And how there was that issue of Doctor Who magazine that came out like just beforehand, which had that great cover, and I think it was a poster as well or something like that. There was just a lot of hype that like 12-year-old me had for it at the time, and yeah, I just feel like Asylum of the Daleks doesn't really live up to all that. And yeah, the fact that then like later on in the Moffat era they tried to make up for it by like trying to include more like classic Dalek designs in other Dalek stories, especially in The Magician's Apprentice and The Witcher's Familiar. Um, yeah, it's not necessarily a bad episode. There's worse Dalek stories out there. There's worse 11th Doctor stories out there. But yeah, it just yeah, I don't really kind of have a strong opinion on it, whether it be a strongly positive opinion or strongly negative opinion. So then we're on to Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Um, I'm also going to put this in there. I think it's slightly better than Asylum of the Daleks, but yeah, I don't really think there's loads that kind of sticks in my memory about it. Like, it's not a particularly memorable episode, but then it's not terrible, like, forgettable episode either. It is just, yeah, I think what does it for me, what kind of saves it, I think, is Mark Williams as Roy's dad, Brian. I love Brian so much. I love him as a character. I wish we'd have got to see more of him. And yeah, his presence in this story, I think, helps a lot for me to just kind of find something entertaining and enjoyable, um, just out of his banter with Rory and the Doctor and everything like that. And yeah, just him as a character, I think he's just great. Um, yeah, David Bradley puts in a solid performance as the main villain, Solomon. But um, I do feel like the comedic duo, Mitchell and Webb, were just kind of wasted. Like, yeah, they were just kind of wasted as those two robots in this episode. Like, yeah, I mean, you get two pretty good British comedians in. Um, did obviously Peep Show and uh, the Mitchell and Webb what was it? That Mitchell and Webb look or whatever it was called. Yeah, I really quite liked their humor and interactions with each other in both of those TV shows. But in this, they're just kind of yeah, like you could have got literally anybody in to voice those robots, and it wouldn't really have made a difference. Like they've not really got very good lines, and I don't know. I feel like they're doing the best they can with it, but yeah, it doesn't feel like they're as good as they could have been. Um, but yeah. Then we've got a town called Mercy. I'm gonna put this in good. Yeah, put it in good. Um, I don't know. I do like it. It's not necessarily doing anything new in terms of like Wild West type of stories, but there is like a nice um kind of the revelation about I think his name was Carla Jack, I think. Yes, I think so. Where he turns out to be, the real villain of the episode, not the gunslinger. Um, yeah, it's a nice enough twist. Kind of again puts the Doctor in that sort of moral dilemma, I suppose, which is quite interesting. And there's some nice kind of like there's a bit of a tense moment between the Doctor and Amy over like because the Doctor, I think, is a lot more like willing to just leave Jack to get killed by the gunslinger, but it's Amy that kind of like stands up to him a bit and tries to convince him not to do that, basically. I suppose it's a nice moment, nice kind of tense moment for them, but yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, there's better stories out there. There's also worse. I'm probably saying that quite a lot in this video. I'm probably saying quite a lot of the same stuff again and again. I do apologise. Um, but yeah, it's fine, but it's fine enough, and I think it's like yeah, it's good enough to be put in good. Let's put it like that. But it's not really like if I was to put it any higher, that I feel like that would just be a real stretch of like I wouldn't believe it really needs to be any higher than that because yeah, it's just it could have been slightly better, maybe a bit more original, but meh. Um, Power Free. I'm gonna put this in great. I don't know why. I do kind of quite like this episode quite a bit. I think partly because Brian's in it again, Roy's dad. And I especially love what he does in the Power Free when he's watching over the cubes for the Doctor and makes his little like um daily video diary or vlog about it. I think that's just brilliant, really funny stuff. Um, no, actually, is it really fair to put it in great? Mm, because then you've got the I want to say Shakira then, but no, it's not Shakira. It's Shakri, um, with I can't quite remember his name, but he's a really quite well-known actor who guest starred in this as the Shakri kind of main person, um, who, yeah, the behind the scenes was not really that on board or that willing to like work well with the rest of the cast and the crew or something like that. I can't quite remember the details of it, but yeah, they had to kind of salvage what they could in terms of his performance of it, and as a result, he's barely in it, even though he's basically supposed to be the main villain. And when he is in it, he doesn't really give much of a kind of villainous, sinister presence. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna put this in. Um, I put it in good. Yeah, I think that's fine. Um, yeah, I've actually demoted an episode now. Oh God. Um, yeah, it's it could have been a lot better, but then I do like the whole kind of build up to the episodes up to that point. I think you know it's mostly going all right to be honest up till then, and then you get was his name Stephen Burkoff, I think, as the Shakri. I don't know. I probably completely got his name wrong. I do apologise. I'm literally just going off all of this off memory, so I really am sorry if I just got his name completely wrong, or if I did get it right, then hey, that's good. Um, but yeah, I'm just rambling at this point, really, aren't I? So yeah, I like the idea of the whole cubes and the slow invasion, and yeah, that's quite cool. That's quite a nice sort of concept. Obviously, this is the first time we get to see Kate Stewart in the series. Um, yeah, I feel like you know she gets a pretty good introduction. Um, yeah, that's about it really. Then we come on to the Angels Take Manhattan. I'm gonna put this in. No, I will put this in GOAT because yeah, again, I don't know why. It seems to be like a lot, like so far anyway, all of the more emotional episodes I've put at the very top. Uh, which, I don't know, I suppose the Matt Smith era just does that kind of stuff really well, especially The Angels Take Manhattan, where, you know, Amy and Rory, like, not my all-time favorite companions by any means, but like the send-off they get in this episode is just beautifully, wonderfully done, and some really great, solid performances from Karen Gillan, from Arthur Darvill, Matt Smith, especially when you know he's there crying after like he's just lost the ponds in that graveyard, and then Alex Kingston as River Song, and her kind of yeah, her usual kind of flirting with the 11th Doctor, but then also those kind of much more tense moments between two of them where they're kind of bickering and arguing a bit. Um, but then how she ends up, you know, being there to support him at the end when the Ponds are gone, been sent back in time, and you know he can't ever go back and see them. It's just really, yeah, it's such a sad kind of ending for them. But it's also kind of like it could have been even more like sad and depressing because the angels could have literally just killed them off. But I'm kind of glad that that's not what ends up happening. They just get sent back in time, but they get to live out their days together like peacefully in the past. And yeah, it's just lovely, really. I mean, it is sad. It is really sad. And you really feel for the Doctor at the end. But yeah, it's just beautifully done. Beautiful bit of writing from Moffat, from Stephen Moffat. Then we come on to the Snowmen. I'm gonna put this in. Do I put it in meh or do I put it in good? I will put it in good actually because yeah, I mean I used to really when this episode first came out, I absolutely despised it. I can't really remember why. I was just really disappointed with it. I think it was like my least favorite story like ever for quite a while. Now I just kind of think, yeah, it's fine. um, yeah, I used to be, yeah, um, yeah, it's fine. Like honestly, I think yes, we could have maybe spent more time seeing 11th Doctor grieving and being kind of like retired from, well, yeah, more or less retired from saving the universe and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of grieving and being all gloomy in his new TARDIS interior and everything. Yeah, um, it's just again, I think we could have, yeah, we could have seen more of it, but then what we do get to see is still quite well done, I think, and Victorian Clara, I should say, Victorian Clara's introduction is pretty good. I would argue probably, again, slight spoilers for, well, literally about a minute or two. But I would say that her introduction is better than um, modern day Clara's. And yeah, I probably would have preferred it in some ways if it had been her that travelled with the Doctor, not modern day Clara, which I believe was supposed to be the original intention, actually. But then, for whatever reason, I think it was because they didn't want a companion from the past or something, even though the classic series used to do a lot of that. They didn't want a companion from the past not understanding like more modern stuff, or something like that. Um, yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame that she gets killed off because, yeah, I think it would have been quite interesting to see her go on to travel with the Doctor instead of the present day Clara, and seeing, the fact that it's the Victorian splinter of her instead, and seeing how that, whether that kind of adds a interesting twist to the um, Eleven and Clara dynamic and relationship. That would have been quite interesting. But it is what it is. Yeah, and then come on to the Bells of St. John, which I'm going to put in meh. Honestly, I don't hate it, but yeah, it's just there. And as I say, I feel like modern day Clara doesn't get as good of an introduction as her Victorian counterpart did in the previous episode. But yeah, there are worse character introductions out there, I suppose. So, fair enough. Then we come on to the Rings of Akaten. Um, I think, yeah, I think I'll put this in good. Um, again, this used to be an episode I really didn't like, but now I don't mind. I quite like the long song, and I think it's really wonderful and quite a nice song and everything. Really beautiful song. Yeah, it's just fine, I think, ultimately. It's not, again, there's not really kind of, I mean, there are things that are coming to my, that are jogging my memory, like certain moments from the episode, but it's not really anything that I can, like, it's more just like, oh yeah, that happened in it. This was the episode where that happened, wasn't it? It was the episode where Clara basically saves the day with a leaf. Which, but then there's this sentimental kind of aspects of that, and how that was the leaf that, brought her mum and dad together, and I think that's quite well done. Maybe could have been done a bit better, but yeah, I think it's pretty fine as it is, really. Then we come on to Cold War. I'm gonna put this in great. I've always loved this episode. I think it's, yeah, just great. I loved seeing the Ice Warriors return after so long. I remember being really excited when news came out that they were coming back for this episode, and I love the redesign. Yeah, again, that great mix of trying to honor the past, but also putting a more modern spin on it. I think that's brilliant. Just love the overall setting and tone of it is quite dark, quite, it feels like the stakes are quite high again, and it's quite a claustrophobic story, which I think Doctor Who tends to do pretty well with, like with Base Under Siege stories where it's set in quite a small, compact, tight space, like a submarine in this case. Yeah, I just think it's just brilliant. And then we come on to Hyde. Again, another story I didn't used to like as much, but now I would say, yeah, I do quite like it actually. Um, I do think that the ending where it turns out that, again, it's that thing of like love saves the day, and turns out there's another crooked monster, and they basically want to get together and stuff. And yeah, I do feel it's a bit of a rushed and sudden like twist. And it feels like it has kind of come a bit out of nowhere. But everything before that point is pretty solid stuff, really, like quite creepy. Um, but yeah, I quite like the fact that we start off with this ghost who then turns out to actually be this time traveler from the future. And we go in expecting this ghost to be all like me- male- bleh, malevolent. Can't even, I'm not can't even say the word sinister, and and then it turns out that no, she's just a woman that got lost in time, basically. And yeah, I just think this is pretty solid episode, apart from the ending. Um, yeah, that's the only slight letdown with it, really. Um, then we come on to the No, is it? No, it's not a Crimson Horror. It's Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, which I'm gonna put it in Meh. Honestly, I mean the fact that okay, he very nearly forgot all about it. That says it all. I don't hate it, but I just feel like it could have done a much better job in terms of like exploring the TARDIS and kind of getting to see like more of the interior of it and everything. And yeah, I just think on paper it sounds like a great idea, and like could have been like really done really well. But I don't really think the execution is quite there. And then the fact that you have these brothers, and I don't find them particularly like that interesting as characters. Like the fact that the brother, like to the other brothers end up making their um their other brother like um pretend that he's a robot or something, or a cyborg. I just find that a bit bizarre, and then the revelation that oh no, actually no, you are actually still flesh and blood. I just find that bizarre. Um yeah. Then we come on to Crimson Horror, which I'm gonna put this in good. It's not one of my favourites, but I would take it over the previous episode certainly, and you know, I think there's some stuff, kind of the concept of it. I think is sound and is pretty good, pretty interesting. But again, it's maybe just the execution of it could have been a little bit better. But yeah, I would still gladly watch it over Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, and especially like Let's Kill Hitler and Closing Time. Um, yeah, I would. Yeah, it's could have been better, but could also been far far worse. Then we come on to Nightmare in Silver. I'm going to put this in. Oh, um, oh, where to put this? It's between meh and awful. Um, no, I put it in meh because there's quite a few aspects I really do not like, but then again, it's just yeah, um, yeah, it's not as terrible as Let's Kill Hitler or Closing Time, but it is by no means like a classic 11th Doctor episode. It definitely is a lot, a lot worse than The Doctor's Wife, obviously written by the same writer. Um, Yeah, it could have done a much better job of introducing this new race of Cybermen, this new design of Cybermen. And I just do not like those two kids that end up traveling temporarily with the Doctor and Clara in this, Angie and Artie. I just find them pretty annoying. Um, always have done, really. But yeah, it could have been a lot worse. At least with like, there's the stuff going on with Matt Smith, where he gets to be the cyber planner as well as the Doctor, and that's kind of interesting. And yeah, it's kind of like a nice kind of moment because again, it's like where one of the lead actors gets to play almost two aspects of the same character, or two different versions of the same character. I think he does quite a good job with that, but I feel like it could have been done even in terms of the writing aspects. Nothing against Smith's like acting with it, but in the writing aspects, I feel like it could have been done better. And yeah, the sidemen in this are just too indestructible. Basically, I just do not like that. Like, I'm all for making them like really quite threatening and like it's pretty difficult to defeat them, that kind of thing. But like this just goes too over the top with it, I think. And yeah, it just would have been better if it just toned it down a lot more. Then we come on to the name of the Doctor. I'm going to put this in good. Um, yeah, I think it's pretty solid. I mean, it is like I think there are better finales out there. There's also a lot worse. It does a better job of wrapping things up than the Wedding of River Song did for Series 6. Like this does a better job of wrapping Series 7 or more like Series 7B up. Um, yeah, the whole kind of who Clara is gets revealed, and I don't know how to feel, but I still don't know how to feel about the fact that she ends up being the one that saves the Doctor, and I don't know. I do kind of like it, but then it also feels a bit too much fan service. Like, here's old Doctors because it's the 50th, or at least it's nearly the 50th anniversary. And yeah, I mean, at the time I really enjoyed it, obviously. But now probably look at it a little bit more critically. But yeah, beyond that, I don't think it's really that bad. Yeah. Then we come to Day of the Doctor, which I mean, once again, it's good, um, but this is basically supposed to be the 50th anniversary special. Now, in a way, it kind of is, but also in a way, it kind of isn't because, well, it's not really celebrating 50 years of Doctor Who now, is it? It's more like celebrating, well, nearly 10 years of the new series, as it would have been at that point, like 8 years anyway. Because it feels very new series focused. I know there's still like nods to the classic series. Obviously, we get Tom Baker returning this time as the curator. That was his first appearance as the character. Obviously, he's since gone on to do it for Big Finish as well. And I do like the whole storyline surrounding the War Doctor. Um, I think John Hurt does a great like performance as that. Like, yeah, it's a great episode for like he is, I think, what makes it work like he is the best part of it. And I think without him, it probably would have been a lot worse. But I think, yeah, saving grace is John Hurt as the War Doctor, and yeah, just just instantly, like even though this is really his only kind of like main episode or main appearance in the actual TV show. Um, Obviously, I know he briefly appeared in the Name of the Doctor at the end as well, but like this is his proper appearance in a TV show proper. Um, it's yeah, it's just great. It's just he's not. It just feels like he's not even acting. You know what I mean? Like he was such a great actor, and it's a real shame that sadly he's passed away now. But yeah, I think it was great bit of casting to get him as the War Doctor because I don't think. I mean, there's plenty. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of great and fine older actors that they could have got in to play the part, but I think John Hurt, um, they would have if it had been someone else. I don't think it would have quite worked in the same way. If it wasn't John Hurt. And, I mean, I would have loved to have seen Chris Eccleston in The Day of the Doctor. because that was probably the only chance, only realistic chance we'll ever get of him truly returning to the show as the Ninth Doctor. But I wouldn't have necessarily like. I mean, I know that that the Ninth Doctor was basically supposed to take the War Doctor's place originally, um, and then because Eccleston didn't want to come back, they ended up Moffat created the War Doctor instead. Um, but I kind of would have wanted to see both of them in it rather than like it be a case of choosing between one or the other because I feel like it would have worked quite well to have the Ninth Doctor and War Doctor there because obviously I can imagine that the Ninth Doctor, I mean, as much as 10 and 11 kind of are very like don't have the greatest and fondest kind of memories of being the War Doctor. I feel like with 9 that would have been even more heightened up, and it would have been really fascinating to see like that play out. Um, yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, it's um it's still a good episode. Like, as I say, it's ultimately just celebrating mainly the new series. That's like, it's not to say that that is necessarily that makes it a really bad episode. Like, it doesn't. It's just, I suppose there was a lot of hype around the 50th, especially. And, there's a lot of talk about will we see all the Doctors together, both classic and new series. Obviously, technically, we did through the use of like archival clips during that moment where they all saved Gallifrey. But beyond all that, yeah, it was more new series focused, which, I mean, it does a good job with that. And it does a good job with the Time War and the War Doctor and everything. And even the stuff with the Zygons is, pretty good. Um, but yeah, it's just, I think it didn't quite live up to the hype. I think that in particular at the time, was kind of expecting. And yeah, I think it just because it was the 50th, I think we set our expectations too high, I think, and it just could never truly live up to it because of various reasons. And yeah, but it's still solid episodes. It's by no means the worst anniversary or multi-doctor episode. Yeah, it's still fine. It's still an enjoyable ride, and it still feels like a special occasion, certainly. But yeah, then we'll come on to 11th Doctor's final story, The Time of the Doctor. I'm going to put this in good as well. Yeah, I think the overall idea of it, of the 11th Doctor's last stand at Trenzlaw and everything, I think it's great. I just think, because I believe that the original plan was that was going to be the whole basis of Matt Smith's fourth series, which would have been Series 8. But then because Matt Smith decided to leave after Series 7, when Moffat wasn't really expecting him to, um, that then led to the Trenzlaw stuff kind of, I think, getting um, having to be done in this Christmas special instead. And I feel like if they'd have just stuck to the original plan and had it play out over an entire series, that probably would have made it work a lot better, I think. For me anyway. But as it stands, it's still fine. There are some moments in it that I just really don't understand what Moffat was thinking. Um, yeah, the 11th Doctor gets naked at one point. I don't get what they were thinking with that. And the whole, um, yeah, the humour involving that and everything. Oh god, I'm just cringing even just mentioning it now. Yeah, I don't get what they were thinking with that at all. Moffat, what were you thinking of then? Um, but yeah, it honestly, it's fine as a final episode. for a Doctor, it's a pretty good one for Matt Smith to go out on, and it ties up loose ends as best it can from his era. But I just feel like if he'd have stayed on for that extra year, it would have probably worked a lot better. I think with tying up those loose ends from series 5 and 6, like who blew up the TARDIS and everything, and then also properly fleshing out the Trenzalore arc. And yeah, I feel like we could have seen more of the Doctor's time there, and the many centuries of fighting that he was present for, and all of that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, but it is what it is, and yeah, it was a solid enough outing for 11th Doctor, and yeah, I suppose at least that's probably what matters. I think most more than anything is, was it a good final last hurrah for Matt Smith's 11th Doctor? Yeah, I think it probably was, and that's completely fair enough. So yeah, that's pretty much it really for this ranking. I am sorry that, as ever, it's been very rambly, and uh, again, I've not prepared a script for it, as you can clearly tell. But I hope you all enjoyed it anyway. Thanks so much for watching, and please don't forget to press that subscribe button below, as well as press the bell icon at the side of it, so that you'll stay notified of when all my new videos come out. And please, if you haven't already, please join my Discord server. You should be able, if I remember, I will put a link to it, like either in the description below or in a pinned comment below. We're literally like one member away from getting 100 members, and I know it doesn't seem like a massive milestone, but it would mean a lot to me anyway if we could maybe get to that point, like sooner rather than later anyway, certainly before the end of this month. And yeah, I just would really appreciate it if you would like to join a Discord. You don't have to, but if you would like to join a server, then please do so. We're all a very friendly bunch over there, and we just talk about Doctor Who. We talk about all sorts of stuff, all sorts of things that we're into. Obviously, there is quite a heavy focus on the what if videos that I've been doing, but even if you're not massively into what if scenarios, you can still join, just have a chat with people and fellow fans and everything. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. So yeah, until the next time, bye bye.